Let's talk about Wonka. The reception to this movie leading up to its release was polarizing to say the least. There were a lot of people that thought this would be really good. I think a big factor in that was Paul King, the director of Wonka, who previously directed Paddington and Paddington 2. And the way he built up that world using visual effects and physics to create things that aren't possible, but instead of taking you out of the movie, it adds a sense of charm and magic to it. Those movies also have a sense of heart and sincerity and wholesomeness in their dialogue, in their tone, in the atmosphere, in the visuals. These all combine to create a sense of childlike wonder and really pull at the heartstrings. And on top of that, these are both very good movies. Paddington 2 in particular is just a masterclass in storytelling. And so going from that to the story of someone who is the epitome of childlike wonder and nostalgia for a lot of people, myself included, seems like a sure thing. But we're not here to talk about Paddington, alright? We're here to talk about Wonka. Let's talk about the Wonka doubters. Why did people think this movie would be bad? Well, the trailer for this movie came out, and it did not look good. And also, Timothee Chalamet looked miscast. Paul King said that he cast Chalamet without an interview, and in the trailer, it seemed like you can tell, because he looked stiff, and he lacked the whimsy of Willy Wonka.
Nope, scratch that, reverse it.
The trailer also had none of that signature Paddington charm that Paul King has come to be known for, and so there were a lot of people that had reservations about this movie. Personally, a Wonka movie was not something that was on my radar, and when it was announced, I was not excited for it because I was already more than content with the original Gene Wilder portrayal. Kind of similar to how the ending of Dexter ruined the whole series for a number of people, I didn't want a soulless Wonka property to cast a black mark over something that was so special to me growing up. So going in, I would have predicted that Wonka would capture the charm and magic of a world with Willy Wonka in it, but Chalamet would miss the mark. And I was almost right. The visual storytelling, the charm, the wholesomeness does capture the childhood nostalgia, and it does hit you in the feels, albeit not as much as Paddington. But, to my surprise, Timothée Chalamet is good in this movie. He's doing his own thing and making the role his own, but he does still feel like Willy Wonka. And I mean the Gene Wilder version, not... Additionally, all of the lines in the trailers that made me cringe are a lot better within the context of the movie. The trailer really did Timothée Chalamet dirty, and it did not do his performance justice at all. Something to consider is the original Gene Wilder portrayal is of someone who had already succeeded in building his chocolate empire. He was always in control, he orchestrated the entire plot, so it makes a lot of sense that he would be very calm and casual, at least for the most part. In Wonka, Chalamet is the protagonist. He has to encounter adversity and problem solve, which is something that we haven't really seen before. And it's hard to add that dimension while still staying true to the Willy Wonka we know. And I think the writing and Chalamet's performance do a really good job at making it feel like a natural extension of the character. So I was pleasantly surprised with Chalamet's portrayal and the movie as a whole. It's a really enjoyable movie. Wonka didn't ruin the original at all for me. In fact, it made me want to rewatch the original to feel that nostalgia again. Don't get me wrong, this movie is by no means perfect. The humor doesn't always land, and the visual effects are shaky at times in ways that took me out of the movie. I also thought that Hugh Grant's Oompa Loompa felt a bit shoehorned in. I like Hugh Grant, and I liked his performance, but I think his character left a bit to be desired. It felt like they really wanted to include the Oompa Loompa origin, but they couldn't quite figure out how to fit it in with the primary Willy Wonka arc and all the secondary characters, and I wasn't really satisfied. Some scenes in this movie really overstay their welcome, and certain sequences have some real pacing issues, and I think a lot of that comes down to the music. Let me explain. I liked the musical numbers more than I thought I would, but they're not spaced out very well. Some parts of the movie felt like there was a musical number in every scene to the point where it was overwhelming, and then 30 minutes would go by without a musical number, and I felt myself missing them. Some of the songs felt out of place and make a scene go longer than it needs to. Other times there were songs in emotional moments of the movie that didn't really land, and I wish I had heard the instrumental score instead. The instrumental score in this movie is really good, and it's used effectively near the end, and so there were just a couple of times where I would have preferred to hear that instead of a song. However, like I've said, all of these issues did not ruin the movie for me, and I really liked Wonka a lot more than I anticipated. And I think the movie's at its best when Chalamet gets to do amusing Willy Wonka things, which is not something that I thought I'd be saying. If you've made it to this point of the video, I just want to thank you for watching, and if you've seen Wonka, let me know your thoughts in the comments.